Welcome everyone back to Vivid Earth. This is Anina Malherbe-Lan back, and today I have an old guest who I realize I haven't spoken to in maybe more than a year. So I felt it was time for a catch up. Clara Camino is an intuitive spiritualist facilitating transformation and self-realization as guided by the divine. I love Clara's ability to um, simplify spirituality for us. And as she calls it, she has a unique ability in advanced spirituality. So it's simple but also advanced at the same time. We're not making it complicated. It's down to earth and it's accessible for all. Welcome, Clara. How are you?
Thank you, Anina. It's really wonderful to chat again. I'm very excited. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So today we're going to talk about some interesting subjects. We're going to kind of hit it off with a little bit of climate change, maybe some geoengineering, but Clara's going to give us her insights on what she sees going on around the world right now, and then how it's linked to various other things that we are noticing in our collective sphere at the moment. So, Clara, maybe you want to kick it off with your view of what's going on with climate change at the moment. It's been a hot topic
Okay.
and it's just
It's
picking
a
up
hot
speed.
topic and a wet topic. Yeah. Okay. I think, Anina, before we start, what I wanted to share with the listeners as well is that each person, and I'm not saying each spiritual person, everyone is spiritual because we are more spirit than physical. And even if it doesn't make sense to us, it doesn't really matter because think about it this way, when you get goosebumps, it's when there's a spiritual recognition within yourself. And that spirit that I'm then referring from is the original divine. And I think the divine that is organic, that is love-based, that is forever. And it's important that we understand that little fundamentality. When it comes to my form of sharing, I would say that to think of me as an eternal child sitting at the feet of the divine, but asking the questions that everybody is afraid to ask, too afraid because they might sound too simple, or just because they haven't yet felt comfortable that you can actually ask all these questions towards the divine. So I get them as a feeling. A feeling is not an emotion. A feeling is, it has information like a light code in it. And then I unpack it.
So it's
Now,
not
one
like
of
a
my,
knowing, it's like like some call
it's
it
like
clear
a
cognizance.
knowing. Yes, yes. But it's so unique because and it can be for anything and everything. So I always have what I call play dates with the divine. Like this one time, I was just watching a documentary, and this man takes out a handkerchief and he dabs the sadness on his girlfriend's eyes. And I was like sitting straight up and I said, Divine, but they haven't discovered handkerchiefs yet. And the divine just smiles and says, yes, that feeling, even with that minute, irrelevant thing, says, start Googling. And I Google, and lo and behold, like it hasn't been discovered yet. It hasn't been a name yet. It wasn't in practice.
Hmm.
So what I'm trying to share is we don't have to be hyper-light in our communication to the divine. And I will also raise with you all the questions that I ask because it is actually quite adorable. So my gift is what they call advanced simplicity. It means that I have the ability to sometimes understand or receive things which even I don't understand fully, but I have the ability to explain it back in a very elementary way. Now, I would love to see that at the end of this conversation, people will actually be able to take information and even when it's very complex, whether it's the news, a documentary, a disaster happening, whether it's in your town, in your own heart, or across wherever, you will know. You will just know inside of you where to place that event with all its feelings that are coming through oneself. Okay.
No, that's wonderful. And I think it's so important because I find so many spiritual people are trying to use very flowery language to make themselves sound so educated and spiritually advanced. And actually, that's got nothing to do with being spiritually advanced. That just means
No.
they feed into the complexity of the English language, which is really designed to confuse, right? So we don't need to make things complicated. It's now we have to make things simple. And as you say, people need to understand. Otherwise, what have we achieved when people don't understand what we mean or what we're talking about? But we sound very important, right? This has got no purpose.
Yeah. I always say the work is actually not glamorous at all. It is in the dungeons of life. It is in the trauma. It is in everything that happens. And from there, where this suffering is happening, the divine must lift me out of it because I am surrendering to that. Now, just because I use the word divine, doesn't mean I am like reading my Bible 24/7 and going to church for the other 24/7 days and things like nothing like that. When I use the word divine, I mean it is the love-based, organic, divine energy that is expressed through all the universal laws. And it has that wisdom of what is actually eternal and what is not. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And
So,
that divinity is in all of us, right? If only we will accept and recognize it, really.
and it's beyond the borders of any religion. It is beyond the borders of what I deem as right and wrong, because everything happens on a spectrum that is actually a curve. So a curve needs to cross somewhere else again. And when I feel the feelings of things that happen in the world, I feel them on both the light and the darkness. I feel them on the positive and the polarity side. Now, that's quite interesting. So the divine has shown me through years and years, and it really does take a lot. Maybe I'm a slow learner, that I must learn to hold the space on both sides of the scale, not judge, not bring it into revenge, because when I do those two actions, I contribute to them. So I hold space for them. Now, something that I find quite interesting is I'm not going to show you a lot, but I'm just going to give you a peek. Can you see this complex? Oh, sorry, and it's the wrong one. Oops. Can you see this diagram here?
Yes.
Really needs to read it as such. But on the one side, it says positive light, and on the other side, it says negative light. And positive light, you contain. And because you contain it, that friction creates spark, and therefore we light up. On the negative side, we give way to it, and it releases and it expands, and then it diffuses itself. So it's just two ways of looking at it. And energy always spirals either up or down. The party trick is that we want to spiral it up. But sometimes we have to allow our feelings world to go down. Because if I can go 5 units down and I might feel a little bit depressed or very sad there, just below my 5 units is where the divine meets me and lifts me back up. If I can go 10 down, the divine meets me at 10 and just a little bit and brings me back up.
It's like that is why
it's like a trampoline. The force down is equal to the force back up.
Or even more, right? Sometimes you can go down a little bit, and through those depths of darkness, it can lift you up even higher.
It can really lift you up. Now, At that very bottom is where the divine gives you your healing wisdom. That's why, in the end, the shortest path to all of that is not to become religious or hang on to anything. It's actually to go inward and just connect with your own divinity. Because depression, when I experience depression, I find I'm struggling with the same thing over and over because it doesn't make sense to me. When I allow it and I surrender to the divine shows me what lies at the maximum down of it. And in a split second, it makes so much sense that there's no debate about what happened. There's no like, oh, I need another confirmation, because it just happens immediately. Just on a very short note, I went through what I call a little Job event. Ding, 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 quite a lot of things. And I couldn't get out of it because I tried with my logical mind, and I was looking like in the mirror, like, am I not doing inner reflections? Am I bypassing? Am I this? Is it karmic? Is it? Nothing made sense. And then one day, when I was quite exhausted about this whole effort of mine, I just surrendered. And then the divine says, now I've got you. Now you're ready. And then it releases itself.
Very interesting.
So now that is a very interesting point as well, because that means in that moment, whatever I went through was one unique expression of the divine that I have accomplished, that I've gone through, and I've expressed it, and I related it back to the divine. We clean it, we make it light again, and then we set it free. That is the alchemical words, that is the transmutation of whatever darkness or whatever the experience was. So it doesn't matter. We are all on the spectrum. All our events are on the spectrum. Now, I don't know whether people are familiar with the raw material, positive and negative polarity. Under positive polarity, I'm a very open heart person on the one side, and on the very other far side, if I am of a closed heart, my ego is very active. I reason everything out. My way of doing it becomes the more prominent way. So it's quite important to understand those two. And I'm not going to go into a lot of theory, but sometimes we have to share what is the basis of how the discussion will unfold. So the first question I asked the divine is climate change. I asked, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? God, are you in control of this climate change? I mean, really? What the thought that was given back to me is, do you remember that you had to study crop cycle? A farmer has to rotate his lands in order to keep up with the fertility and the way the farmer will cultivate its fields. So that was the very first picture the divine gave me. And then it said, so why do you think that Earth does not need to basically rotate its cropping fields? And immediately I was shown that the Sahara Desert has the potential to become a forest, and the forest has the potential to become a desert. Now, have you noticed I've used the word the potential? It does not mean it will. Potential is not guaranteed. It is, yeah, and I'm getting goosebumps, so it means we are on the right track here. So then I watched a documentary about, these people that they pull these long tubes of ice from the poles, from Antarctica, and then they look at it and they see when was the ice age, when was this, when was that. And then they talk about the whole permafrost thing, the ice that is melting. Now, when I look at it, I was like excited. My whole heart was like expanding. I was truly excited about this information. But when I listened to the documentary, oh gosh, no, we're very sad. It's all wrong. So now there's an incongruency in the experience, the one that I receiving, but not from what I'm receiving from the divine. So I ask, explain that to me. And the divine says, now, when they pull these long ice things from the earth, these ice tubes, have you noticed that not one of those rings are the same width? I said, no, that much you can give me credit for. They were all different. Again, that is it. Earth is changing, but we are changing as well. If that you're the drop in the ocean and the ocean is the whole of the ocean is in you, then if the one changes, the other one must change as well.
Mm.
That is the law of balance playing out. Now, I also asked the divine a different story, which is a little bit unrelated to climate change, but I'll bring it back to it now. I said, when people are fighting about the whole creation story, what we do here, I'm not really interested in winning any arguments. What I want to understand is, where are we now? What is my role in it? What must I take accountability for? What is relevant to me? Because if it's outside my field of influence for now, then I don't want to waste time on it, because my bucket list of things that are within my control is large enough. And then I received the information that in all of creation, in all of the civilizations, there were 3 great civilizations and 3 not so great civilizations. The great civilizations just said, I'm coming home. And whoop, there we went. We went home, we returned to our divinity, our divine essence. Now, on the other 3, things didn't go that well because they didn't really meet the divine in their heart. And unless you meet the divine in your heart, that other option doesn't exist for you because we've never acknowledged it. So they go on a different track where they keep trying to think that I am the fool God, but I'm not yet. So I don't know whether that nuance makes sense. So asked, but what about this civilization? This civilization where we are currently is the culmination of the 3s, the 3 successful and the 3 not so successful. So right now, we have both here. We have people that have done it and people that have never done it because they look the other way. Now, it's very important to understand that in order to share with us the division between these 2, the one I'm going to call organic, light, love, eternal. The other one is more, I want to control it. I want to show you that I can do it, not God, not the organic God. I'm going to control it. I'm going to design it. I'm going to give you a different type of eternity. So can you already feel how the world is splitting? Now, when it comes to climate change, yes, the climate is changing. Another way that I can say it, since I'm a drop in the ocean, I am changing. My moods are changing. It means the way of how I show up. Do I have compassion for this person or not? Do I feel that this is also a child of the divine or not? Those are my moods. I'm just using very elementary words. When I am in anger, which I am not saying is wrong, and I'm not making it right, but is it harmful? When I harm, I am on a very far spectrum away from a divine, organic divinity that is very inclusive. Whether it's my words, whether it's my action, whether it is that I exclude anyone. Okay. So now I just want to go to my notes.
And it's very tricky because, you know, there's so much to be angry about in today's world. And, you know, as people discover what's been going on under their noses, their natural reaction, right, is to be angry and to want to right the wrong.
Yes. So I have to understand, where does that anger come from? Because I think I can control it.
I think it's realizing that we've been fooled, and I guess going into victimhood and saying, well, they did this to us and they created all this control on the planet and they did this to the children and they did this to us.
Correct. And the way out that I asked the divine was, I see all this deception. What now? And the divine explained to me, it's easier. It's already difficult, but it can be made easier to acknowledge to myself that I am on the path of deception. I'm not saying I am the deceptor. I'm saying on the path. Once I started to acknowledge that I am on this path in the simulation that is all deception, I just started seeing them all. And I realized you don't resolve deception. You just let it go.
Yeah.
If I try to fight deception, I'm keeping it in motion.
Yeah. You know, it's like I said a while ago, it's easy to perpetuate hate and vengeance on the planet by just keeping it going. Literally, you perpetuate that. If you think about, you know, like often I saw a movie about the Spanish conquistadors and what they did to the poor people in, I think it was it the Philippines? I forgot now. But one of those islands, and how cruel they were to these people. And you'd like, how can anyone be this cruel? And the natural reaction is to kind of do it back to them. But then I learned that they themselves were brutalized a century or two earlier. So is it that difficult to believe that they would do the same to somebody else and then just perpetuate that feeling of hate and division? So that doesn't work because it never ends. You've got to end it. You've got to end the vengeance and the deception and say, we recognize what's going on and we're ready to let it go. And we
Absolutely.
forget. And we forget.
When the Gaza war broke out from the 7th of October, that one, I sat for 4 months at the feet of the divine, processing I call it line item by line item, because I don't process climate change. I process my accountability, your accountability. I come with open heart. I come with closed heart. I come from suffering and I come from revenge. And I embrace it all. And the biggest prayer that I can say in that moment is for courage, not to escalate in revenge or judgment, because then I feel it. But we can talk about that. We can talk about it now, or we can talk about that in its own umbrella, because that is as powerful as climate change is.
Yeah, it probably is a whole different discussion, and we tend to get distracted. So we can kind of pull it back to.
I call it string theory. It doesn't matter what word pops up, we can take it from there. And in the same way, it doesn't matter who or where we are in this lifetime, the divine meets you where you are. So everything that we touch, see, or hear has the potential to become that path if I so choose it. Okay.
Indeed.
So
interesting.
Yeah. So I just want to go back to this whole climate change. If I take the work of Dr. Emoto, now there's a reason, because remember, I also say, so divine, tell me, why did the work of Dr. Emoto become so prominent? Why other scientists look at it? People are putting their wedding rings in water, freeze it, and then, look at the water. And if I shout at the water, it becomes negative. That plant doesn't grow so well. But share with me, what is the importance of it? Why is it in my field of knowing? And that's where the divine says, first of all, we are aware that we are more fluid than solid. We are water. My first expressions about myself and through me actually crystallizes, or it patterns, it makes out of chaos beautifulness in my own blood, which is my water. Then from here, it goes into my earth, the little garden, the vegetable garden, and things like that. Then the fruit that I hand out, it actually goes forward from there. And all of these things gets light from the sun, which is part of the divine's collective. The sun is almost like it holds wisdom, love, codes, solutions, growth, potential. So as it releases, it's giving us all that. But we've only through science come to learn in prior years that it's all about photosynthesis. But now we're learning, the picture is getting a little bit bigger. So in the Bible, there was a little clue. And again, we can have a total different discussion about my 5,000 questions to the divine, how to interpret the Bible so that I don't create any conflict. And it's amazing, and it is simple. Any child can do it. So on the Bible, there's a line that says, and you humans, us humans, I will make you guardians of earth. We were never made the owners. We were not made the boss. A guardian is a caretaker, or a caregiver rather. A guardian knows the sacredness of this interaction that it will have with the things of earth. If we can remember that little bit, we will actually, just like kind words towards me and towards you, settles your heart. It brings you into inner harmony. If I can remember that I am a guardian of earth, through the divine love that I've received, I calm waters on earth. But on the one side, we have lived through so many wars and brutality and pain and suffering. And whether it was a world war, whether it was nuclear testing, whether it was hate speech, it doesn't matter what it is. The harshness of our words became unbearable. Now, one would think that it's all due to the people on the closed heart side. But remember, I shared with you that I feel the whole spectrum. So both sides are feeling it, but we do feel it different and we do express it differently. The open heart, and we're not all the way over there or all the way over there. We are spectrum, placed on the spectrum. We move around as we feel stronger or not, whatever comes up. But then again, that's all in the realm of why we have planetary movements, astrology. But again, let's go back to, I am of open heart. So when I suffer and I cannot bear my own suffering, I cannot hold all of that suffering either. And I set it free into the ethers. And it has to go somewhere, and it goes towards the elementals. The elementals don't have their own mood swings. They carry ours. Remember, I'm simplifying the language here. On the closed heart, they don't like what they've experienced because they were not on top of the food chain, so therefore they like to take revenge. Suffering can also move forward in protection and become brutal. Closed heart moves forward in revenge, but in the end, both parties suffer. That is why forgiveness is so difficult on both sides, because forgiveness is the holding of the light in the container of the space that I'm holding. I'm not passing it on. I am searching in my container, not to seek revenge, but to find myself here. And in this friction, in my own inner turmoil, I eventually come to a point of forgiveness. And that moment is when I radiate light again. But when I let it go and I pass it on, I'm not in forgiveness, I'm taking action. And therefore, we've created, with every revenge, more and more and more pain and suffering.
Yeah.
And us with open heart, we just move forward with more protection. And I want this, I want that, I want to protect you. But we just move further and further apart. And this is where we are right now. So when it comes to Earth, it's weather conditions, which is climate. Those are my moods. At first is to make friends with them, to find your own inner harmony. When we, as South Africans, went through our drought about 5 years ago, I asked the divine, what now? And the divine said, mourn, cry, go into your deepest remorse so that the tears from your face can nurture Earth, because you didn't know what a gift it was that I've given you all to have so much water and to love water. And whoever drinks water, whoever takes water, whoever gives water to plants, it is a beautiful cycle, but we totally forgot that. We became, water in a tap. We no longer attached sacredness to it.
We didn't appreciate it. We weren't grateful.
No.
I remember.
It was
I just leave the tap on, and you didn't care. And now until this day, I'm like mindful of, any taps left on or too much water.
Those 3 very, very scary years of drought really changed who we are, our awareness. And maybe not everyone, it doesn't matter. We can only manage ourselves. Are you still being kind and generous in your heart by knowing that water is sacred? That's the beginning. So on that side is I have to take accountability for the nature, for the way that water expresses itself through climate change. There's a small part that I had played in it. The moment I acknowledge that I had played a small part in it, I take and claim also a part of my own sovereignty. And when I claim my own divine sovereignty, God says, so you're not a blamer over there. And when you're not a blamer, you haven't given your powers away, you take accountability for my words, for my feelings, for my thoughts, for my actions, everything. Now you're going to say to me, maybe, but what about weather modifications?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I just wanted to say something about the Cape Town drought. You know, some people
Yeah.
believe it was artificially created, that drought, it wasn't real. But the point is there's always a flip side to it. There's always a way of turning a negative into a positive, because what did we learn through this process? We learned quite a lot about how to appreciate water and how to be respectful towards nature, right?
I asked the divine ones, like how many people have got knee replacements? And I said, divine, just tell me, I mean, of course you've got these powers to give us new knees. Why? Why would we be able to fix our ribs and broken legs and this and that, and my hair can grow and my liver can do this and that, and if my eyeball, and healing is possible. But why not the knees? What makes the knees so special? And the divine said, there was no when the wisdom of how to do a knee replacement for the very first patient happened. If, let's say, we spent 500 million rand to perfect that one knee for that one person, so that that one person can one day just walk on the beach again. And we did that with love. The divine would have said, well done. I love the fact that you could have made an interim solution. What the divine says is happening now is, yeah, we're doing it, but we're not doing it out of love. We're now doing it out of profit. And we're not even bothering to plant the memory in ourselves, our own remembering that our bodies can heal itself. Our bodies can do magnificent things, which is also important. So it's even the divine never criticizes. I still have to come up with a situation where the divine says, you are terribly wrong. That it has never, ever, it might have been out of my alignment, but it's not ever made terribly wrong.
Sorry, I wanted to say there's no judgment, right? The divine doesn't judge.
No, although the divine holds that ability to judge, but the divine doesn't judge whilst we are trying to figure ourselves out. The divine has placed all these universal laws to give me guidance through my solar plexus and my knowing. My body is that vibration. Even as a little child, I never ever bothered to listen to the 10 Commandments, because by then I would have been dead. My frequency was more delicate than that. So to follow rules is to basically say that I will disconnect from my consciousness, which will guide me towards what is in my alignment or not. So how do I know? The things that are in my alignment is lighter. It is immediately putting myself at rest. Things that I go about for days, weeks, months. I could have said that. I should have done that. That type of behavior, we all know that. It means I am struggling with a decision that I've made that is out of my alignment.
Yeah.
And it's not about good or bad or that type of judgment. So everything happens in the context of something. of
It's
how
like a
we play
mirror.
life.
What you give out, you get back. There's no judgment in that. There's no like, oh, shame, or this or that. It just whatever
No,
you give out, you get back. It's without filter, without judgment.
and
That's how the
exactly so,
universe works.
and one of the things that I've discovered is for me, it was easier to change my language to ask, what is appropriate for me in this now moment?
Yeah.
So, because what then happens, it takes into consideration or the context of everything, because the divine knows everything. But more than that, it also opens up different dimensions, different, let's not be too pedantic about the words right now. Different layers, different realms, different densities, different dimensions, as long as it becomes lighter towards the divine. When I ask, what is most appropriate for me in this moment, and I've claimed my sovereignty, and I've claimed this connection with the divine, I know the direction of my thoughts, and it will always seek from the highest. That is why somebody like Einstein said, you cannot solve the problem at the same level that you've created it. You've got to go higher. So again, now let's shift towards weather modifications, weather control, climate control.
I just want to say something again that I wanted to say earlier. You were talking about Dr. Emoto. So, of course, that is also like a feedback loop, like a mirror. So we've got wars and, all this torture and tumultuous activity on the earth. The earth is going to give that back to us, right? And vice versa as well. So it keeps, but at some point that lid has got to blow because the steam's got to come out.
It's already giving it back to us. So when Earth shakes, when there was a particular earthquake, and I just need to maybe share it this moment. You can even call me uneducated. I
Definitely not.
am not a polymath. I don't have degrees and I don't study anything extensively because to study it is to take the wisdom of another human being. I basically just let it all go. And then I ask the divine. Now, what I then find so interesting is whether I listen to somebody like Matthias or Greg Braden or Patricia, like who does more like the spiritual realm thing. It doesn't really matter. They always confirm what I've just discovered because we are all learning at the same time through the lens at which we look at life. If I asked to be an academic, I would have had to study it. I'm only curious and childlike in my search. So I get it in that way. And everyone is the same. The little things that you've asked for when you were a little girl is actually how the divine will respond back to you. If, like for instance, when I was prior to like maybe 10 years, roundabout but younger too, I said to the divine that I really like parables. I really like that stories. But I just want to put up my hand that those stories are a little difficult for a child, number one. Number two, they're very outdated. People seem to fight about it. I would like it if the divine will give me my own set of parables to play with and metaphors and things like that. Because remember, I'm a little child. That's what I'm asking for. So it doesn't matter what I watch as a movie, as a documentary, as a cartoon. The divine speaks through all of that. And I don't have to train myself because that is what I've asked and you shall receive. Now, it is so elementary. I never ever asked for big fancy words. I don't want to impress people with big words, because the smaller the word, the finer the line, the easier it is to feel the energy, to feel the wisdom in it, to feel what I need to feel. You can't say to someone, can you feel democracy? No, you can't. Democracy is both the ability to vote, but you don't get the ability to unvote. Once you're the one that you vote for is corrupt, you've got to live out that cycle. I mean, it's ridiculous. You can't be a corrupt person at work and chaps from management, they'll let you go. But if a politician does it, no, you've got to wait out the season. So
what happened to you're fired?
Exactly.
If they work for us, we can fire them as well, right? We can employ them and we can fire them. But anyway, that's a whole nother discussion.
That's a whole different story. So the smaller the more elementary the line, the easier it is to feel the story.
It's closer to the truth. It's closer to the bones of what it is. Otherwise, it's all these like layers over it and convoluted, and it's just not crystal clear, right?
Exactly. So I am part of the things that I love is that I learn both what I call the line item, but I also always ask, and what is there not? Which is quite an interesting question to ask, because when I Googled South Africa, I wanted to give people like real examples. I don't want to impress on you to see the world my way, because I'm doing that job. Everybody else can do it their way. But there are certain pitfalls, there are certain markers, which is quite interesting. Now, just listen to this. I asked about whether cloud seeding, whether South Africa does cloud seeding. Okay.
You Googled it?
I want to give people, there's a difference than when I get the information from God, from the divine, versus when people in our media, in our whatever gives it, and how do they present it, and to spot the deception. If you get the tools, like here, it's actually fun. Okay, so that was my question.
Built-in Google, and God answers your questions directly, not Google.
Yeah, but then I go check and listen to this. This is now the weather service in South Africa. There's no cloud seeding techniques were employed in any province of the Republic of South Africa during 2023 and 2024 financial year.
Okay.
This statement is dated 16 February 2024. Now, because I can also feel, hey, what a little deception we've got here. Immediately, the divine says, now Google the KZN flash flood. That happened in 2022. So when they make this statement, they are correct. But you know what really was an overkill for me here is when they said in any province, and when they said during this financial year. Who reports like that? They basically are telling me already that we've done it. Now, a couple of months ago, I was also talking to somebody else about this whole cloud seeding thing. And I said, the thing about weather modification, where they do this, we have got a population of people that cannot be controlled as one. You just put your foot wrong and chaos will happen somewhere. You just tip too much attention on one particular issue and you ignore the rest. It doesn't make it right, it doesn't make it wrong, but it does make it very interesting. So every country has a very unique nature of its own. So now, but look what they posted on the 27th of November 2023, a year earlier. They said, firstly, cloud seeding does exist and has been undertaken in South Africa in the past. It just depends. It depends when you start your research.
That's interesting, why they would have wanted to correct that either.
But they don't. We as humans, if I step on your toe, if I give you the wrong information, I need to come and apologize. But for some reason, some people place themselves above admitting to their mistakes. If I can't even admit where I've done wrong, it means that I've not even shown any remorse. I cannot cover it up. Self-forgiveness can only begin where I've done self-acknowledgement. Okay.
Either that or Google has been taken over by the lions and they're starting to speak the truth.
Yeah. So that was just one experience. So back to climate changing. Yes, the climate is changing because of, let's just call it crop rotation on Earth. But in actual fact, we also know
I hope
that
we're not the crops that are being rotated by.
No, it's just
I understand what you mean. I just thought I'd throw in a little joke.
Yeah, but if we truly understand where we're going eventually, we will understand that as the frequency of Earth raises and we raise our own, and we are no longer revengeful, or we are no longer in a lack scarcity, because I do everything inward and I can no longer create competition to dominate you. I can become ready for that elevation with Earth. And in that new Earth, the climate will be beautiful. We will have ice cold if we want it, but we won't have it as a detriment, as an impact. Everything will be there, but not as too harsh to live with comfort. If I want that snow, I will have it if I want to go snow skiing. But I won't have it if I can't survive there.
Yeah, that's what I've heard as well. The seasons won't be as extreme. The tides won't be as extreme. It will be more.
So the extremity that is coming out now is the extremity of all our suppressed emotions that had to almost like hang on to the elementals, but we are cleaning them. And the best way is to love them like that. But I do want to go into weather modification and that type of climate control. Now, if you take, again, open heart, positive polarity, you've got your closed heart, negative polarity, very critical ego. These polarities, if you think about a wind that came from the open heart, where we suffered, and then even the open hearts could later on become a little bit revengeful. But what happened to the people that were revengeful on the critical one? Because they're not seeking forgiveness of my own actions, my own misinterpretation, I'm always seeking to control more and more and more. We ended up on that spectrum to become harmful. And that's where we see the darkest of darkest. Now, some of those entities became a pendulum that became so dark that they totally disconnected. They don't even recognize that there's a divine, organic, beautiful divinity. They say, I will start being that. But you also heard that there were two words used. The one was the snake of the head of the snake has been cut off, meaning the serpent, the very worst of the worst. We've also heard now. I don't tap into those energies, but it's the one with the is it Anki and Alil? What are those?
Enki and Enlil.
Sorry?
Enki
Okay, so
and
those,
Enlil, yeah, from the Anunnaki.
so those two were fighting, and the one cut off the head of the other one in the very up higher realms. So those two events, they play off in a higher realm and in the lower realm. What happened there is that extreme oppression, that extreme dominance of absolute violence has been the fueler of it. The God that wanted it is now destroyed by another God. But now remember, this original God is you cannot destroy. It's eternal. We know that. So now there's one more God left. But that is the subliminal God. That is the God. I won't force you. I will entice you. I am not going to tell you that this organic option is left, but I'm just going to put up here. I'm going to tell you that if you follow me, I will give you a world where you can fly with clean fuel. You can be instantaneously across the globe at another place. You can live under earth, above earth, or high above earth. It doesn't really matter. And you know the best part is, in that world, the climate will be perfect. It's almost like having central climate control in your house. And that God is far more subliminal. It lures you. It doesn't tell you that sugar is bad. It just gives you candy all the time, and colorful candy. That is another civilization that in another 2,500 years will realize, oh man,
Okay. Sorry, guys, we're back. We just had a Wi-Fi interruption, trip plugs, but we will continue. Clara, you were busy explaining.
I think we were saying about how, like in this artificial world, which is a very technologically advanced world where everything will be controlled, they are now basically experimenting with that control. So it's like, do you choose to be part of it or not? Because everything will be controlled, like the micro leaves that looks healthy, that are the greeny leaves that we require in our current diet, but they're done under artificial light. They just don't have the life force, the life codes that come from sun into our own nature and vegetables that are grown from a more organic world. So those are the two choices. And the choice that we make is basically through the heart space. Because in order to lean towards the organic divine route, I have to let go that I am better than you, because that creates separation. I have to let go that there's lack, because the divine will provide and we will enjoy doing what we do. It's not force. The other one will be highly controlled. A chemical environment will keep everything serene, everything bug-free. Technology will be how we communicate, how we create entertainment. But it's because it doesn't have that love that we so yearn for, it will become like a flatline society one day. But on the other side, it is organic. Now, even when you look at mainstream, what people are telling us about when they do all these future-looking things, there is a much, much, much higher propensity of people telling you this mechanical future, which is so enticing, than the organic one. And why is that? Because the organic path is the path of the unknown. I still have to have trust, faith, and hope in this divinity that governs everything. Although we can point to it and we can yearn and you can feel it basically, I just can't give you all that evidence because it is divinely inspired. It can be created in a moment. It is far more powerful than this other one. And that is why they have to entice you for it. They have to do marketing to get you there.
So let me just ask you a question. Are you saying all advanced technology is bad?
No.
I kind of know what you're going to say, but I'm asking it anyway.
It's a good question, but that's why I asked about the knee, and that's why that was explained to me, that nothing is bad. The drone that we so used to make beautiful sky views and photographs, they use it to plant trees in difficult areas, was once a military device. Nothing is bad in itself.
It's the intention behind it. Everything can be used for good and bad, right? That's exactly. Number one.
And remember, my infusion of love also infuses all the elementals. So therefore, I am a co-creator with the divine. In the other one, it gets created and dumped on me.
Yeah, there's no sovereignty in that, right? There's no participation in that. It just gets given to us on a silver platter. And again, appreciating what you have and living in love and unity may be not a natural byproduct of that kind of world. It could be.
And for the moment, they want us to feel horrendous things towards these man-made weather modifications that creates harm. Because if I can have anger towards it, I'm feeding that.
They actually like us to know about their harp and their dew and all of that, because they know it'll make us angry, and that'll just feed their machine even more.
Exactly. So at this current moment where we are now, and I want to say current moment because we're going to rise above this, is when you hear about a climate, what shall we say, a climate modification.
That's really what it is. Yeah.
What it is, and it is so destructive. We have many, there's a scale of things. I can go look at it from revenge, I'll show them. Or I can go as a sensational person. Oh, look, look. Or I can go with my judgment. But everything like that is feeding them. A different way is to find harmony in self and say, where can I send some of my courage so that someone can have the courage to just live through it, survive? Where can I look to find inner harmony? Because once I find inner harmony in me, I radiate that. The stronger my bandwidth become as I do it over and over and over. So I do not have a day that I tell you that I had to go for forgiveness. It's over and over and over. If you can pinpoint that one incident when you did forgiveness, then most probably it's because it was so exceptional, because we come from the closed heart way where we only do it once and we think that's it. On the open heart side, it's really a course in forgiveness. It's the path of unknown, and it's forgiving until I think sometimes beyond fed up. I say, like, Afrikaans has got the word called gatvol. You lean towards that, but that's how many times one seeks to do it. If you're not meant to do it, you won't do it. And that's where the divine guidance comes in.
Yeah. In a way, I think it can also be explained by karma, because if you do not forgive it, if you do not let it go, that cord exists and it will keep playing out. And that is probably one of the biggest motivations to understand why you need to let it go, because otherwise the karma just keeps on going like a feedback loop.
And we must never, ever forget that the most amazing things can happen. You know, when Padre Pio was alive during World War II, he just said, no bomb will fall here. It wasn't a debate, because he knew his love vibration wasn't just for the soldiers from Italy. It was for humanity. Therefore, he got the protection. And everybody in that monastery benefited.
Yeah. And it's also very simple. It's a frequency. Either you hold a high frequency or you hold a low frequency. You cannot hold both at the same time. And you have to choose. And if you want to hold a high frequency, you have to forgive, and you have to let that vengeful thoughts go, because that is a low frequency emotion.
So we do the inner work in the bottom range of where we find ourselves.
Yeah, and then we shadow work. You climb around there in the shadows, and you pulling things out of corners, and you cleaning out the corners of your being.
Yeah, and it's very private, it's very intimate, it's really not a showcase for the world.
Yeah, and it's not glamorous, as you said, not at all. People don't become spiritual and perfectly high vibrational just by saying it. They have to go through the depths of they've got to clean out all the cupboards, all the clutter and the dust and the skeletons and everything else hiding in the cupboard. It's got to be cleaned out. Then you can say, I've risen through the mud and I've come up this beautiful lotus flower. Now I can say, well, we never really arrive, do we? We always learn and we always evolve. But for a moment, that beautiful flower will come to light.
Yeah. You know, I don't tend to ask ego questions. But I remember, this must have been decades ago. I said, Spirit, it's really quite vague. Like where am I exactly on this path? And the divine says, you are halfway. But even if you ask the question 10 years forward. You've moved forward, but you are still halfway. Because the more you cultivate to harness the darkness that is now behind you, the greater the path into your future, the lighter it becomes. We, in this new dispensation, every minute effort counts for something. Everything is a choice point towards my organic love versus the love for technical things. But in between, it's like tarot cards. They don't possess me. They don't tell me. I just enjoy pictures. There's a big
playing
difference
with them, but you don't give your power away to them. You are the one.
No,
You are the one that communicates through them ultimately.
Exactly. And to play on the more safe side, the side of caution, because there are so many falseness, like the subliminal false god that is actually creating, which basically the new entity will now freely use their free will to walk into this new future, which is so enticing, so easy to come by, because there you don't have to do this inner work versus the other one where you do it, but then we'll just fly around with Merkabahs and just be. Our human design will come into its full display, where we will collectively become the generator of something, the manifestation of something. Okay, that word, or the projector of something. I don't even know. I don't know the detail of that. I just received that in this organic world, we will come together and we will be co-creators. There's a collective, the coming together is the power.
It's again talking about, it comes back down to sovereignty. Do you want to give your power away to someone and just receive all these things that are going to make your life better? Or do you want to be a co-creator of this beautiful new world where you take full self-responsibility for your own life? You're not dependent on anyone or anything, and you step forward in your full sovereignty and you're co-creating with everyone else, you know?
Exactly. The moment I blame, I give a little bit of my sovereignty away. And basically, I create a little crack in my dome of protection.
Yeah.
When I criticize and take revenge, I need to create the crack in my divine sovereign protection. Nobody else does it. The psychic attack doesn't come just because I am here. It comes because I am so desperate to create something in the world which is false. Therefore, I create the first crack for the psychic thing to come through.
Yeah.
That is why it's the organic path requires a lot. But it doesn't require to do a lot. It's actually to let go of so many things on this false route that is so enticing. And for now, listen, we watch TV if you want to, drive your vehicle if you want to, but whatever you do it with consciousness, do it with joy, do it with knowing that it is a gift bestowed. When Terence Howard did his speech on that little linchpin thing and the new periodic table and all lines are curved, you know, there were so many people that shamed him. Then there's one or two scientists that says, I have not a clue what he says, but it's very interesting. I'd like to hear more. That's the attitude. Because when I listened to him, I realized that he's actually sharing something of which I know nothing, but he's sharing something which is in the higher vibration, because the magnetic field of Earth is also changing. And that is a clue. Magnetism either pulls or pushes away. That density is changing. And he's just pointing towards science. Wake up, things are going to change big time. That's all. We don't have to understand it yet. We just need to be aware that everything is going to change. Once one thing changes,
and an open mind. Otherwise, you're going to have a hard time.
Yeah. And then it's not just what they say, but also what does people not tell you. So when people tell me I am coming from a very advanced society, I say, wonderful, but can you first tell me advanced in what? I no longer assume advanced from the divine, organic divine path, or advanced of the ones that turned your back on it and you only went for technology. Because again, we're on this spectrum.
Yeah. And that's what happened in Atlantis, right? They chose the technological path. They chose the ego-based, adoration of technology, and they lost their organic timeline.
And there was also the other side. There was also a couple of organics, and they followed a different path. So both civilizations exist at the same time. I would not have had any opportunity to know the power of the divine, of what it can truly do in my life, had I not been exposed to those moments where I had to call on it. So the darkness had to come so that I could learn that. Otherwise, I'm just telling you stories, but that's not my path. I have to experience everything as one energy, one energy, one energy, one energy on both sides. Yeah.
Yeah. And
that's how my soul learns.
Yeah. And I just want to say for people, it doesn't mean we're not going to have advanced technology, because we have been suppressed and kept away from a lot of things like free energy and 0-point energy. It was discovered, or let's just say rediscovered, more than 200 years ago, but it was buried and the inventors were killed. And those technologies will come back to the surface, but it's how we interact with it.
Yes, and it can even be greater and better than that. That too exists. Yeah. We can even look at education. Do you know that the one formula that we haven't tried yet is to just love our children, just love them. It doesn't matter what they do, just love them.
Just let them be.
And observe them. Because they will connect. Remember, the simulation is designed to remind each and every one that the veil is too thick, you can't remember, and this is the program. If we just change it, we can say, what do you remember? What do you yearn for? That's why what we've asked for in our pre-years is that remembering. And we've all remembered at least something from when we came. And it's freedom and love. That's why those are the two things that we totally yearn for all the time. We have not forgotten everything. Since we haven't forgotten everything, it means that there is still a line to where we came from. That little thread is still strong enough because we yearn for it. It's got to count for something.
Yeah. Absolutely. Very fascinating. So just to kind of wrap this geoengineering in a bow that we've been speaking about, how do we reconcile what's happening? And how do you see things kind of rolling out or moving forward in the coming months and years?
Okay. First of all, no one knows everything. Every person that comes to the fore and shares something is not wiser than anyone else.
Yeah.
They just have either a much louder voice or a more dominant way of sharing it. But each one has got a spectrum of where you radiate. And the best is to feel, not emotionally, just let that energy feel. Does it make me feel more comfortable? Is it scary? Is it all that? Would I have had this desire or fear if there wasn't any marketing? You know, the resonance is changing. The solar flares are getting a little bit stronger, but so is our essence. We are all getting stronger together with Earth. There is nothing scary. The scare is all human-made.
Yeah.
And think about it like this. If you had no data, if you were too poor to have any data, and you don't even have a cell phone, and you live somewhere where there's no television, would you have been afraid of COVID?
Nope.
They had to bring you the marketing first, and the marketing was fear-based.
Yeah.
So when people are saying things like, this information is only for 0.000001%, or only for the chosen, or only for this, or if you cannot do this and this, or if you can't come to this thing, and only I can do this for you, then know that that comes from the side which wants to control. It means they have a very, very strong critical mind. They are also God's children. They are playing their role for you to use discernment.
Otherwise, how would we learn discernment?
And this, what I like about this playground, the more stronger they want to make their message, means the weaker they are in true power. Otherwise, why would it? That's why God never, ever overplays its power, because it knows its own power. I mean, I had a thing where an 18-wheeler truck was stopped. Yay! I could, I mean, listen, I'm the girl that cries if I get a paper cut. So we're not talking about me, the human here. And who is promoting what? And you will very clearly see those people that are very authentic in their expression of their own divinity has got a very original voice. It's not like 5,000 people are trying to mimic them even, because they know they are once of a time. And we all want to go for that level of originality.
Yeah.
We shouldn't all speak the same language. We shouldn't be all saying the same thing. It is that one person's job.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're copying one another, and that is not a divine expression.
Yeah. And that authenticity is one of the highest frequencies as well.
It is. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And when you are in that uniqueness, you can either cry, oh, nobody supports me, or oh, nobody understands me. So what? The frequency which the divine gives through that being in its own uniqueness is anyway so powerful. Who would want that second breath of somebody that says, I understand you? Or I support. No, whether you get it or not is immaterial. The only thing that is truly, truly of importance for the individual is that when I listen to you, does my heart open? Do I feel inner harmony? Does your sharing land gently with me? Or are you trying to hammer it into me with like a nail, a hammer and a nail, doof, 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 and it's painful and I've got to hear it in a very forceful way, otherwise it's not going to come to me. No, that's not what we're going to do. In future, we're not going to say, put up your hand and have a business card, I am a healer, because we don't have to. The divine will say, oh, that one right in front of you. Whisper these words in their ear, or give them this hug, or just bend down, pick that flower and hand it over to them. We don't have to be sensational about it, because we're just little servants, loving one another. We don't have to go about showing everything, because the radiance will do all the work.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's no guidance up until it's needed. It's really in the moment.
No guidance until it's needed.
Yeah, that's the unknown. There's really no God does not market. There's no marketing, because marketing means I need to tell you things to influence your decision.
Yeah.
No. Intuitive guidance just drops in and you just know, like douche. You almost don't want to tell it to anybody else, because that will diminish the potency of it.
Yeah. So I have got to wrap up. I've got people waiting for me, but we can speak for hours on end. It's really super interesting topic. Clara, where can people find you? Because I'm sure people are going to be looking for you. Or shall we just leave your links below?
You can, and it's just www.claracamino.co.za for South Africa, and that's the website. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, go and check out Clara's work. She's amazing. And yeah, she's just authentic, advanced simplicity, and just, accessible spirituality, really, for people to understand it, for anyone to understand it. So appreciate her input. And yeah, she's one of those people that I call on, when I need a very honest answer or insight with integrity. And yeah, she's just one of a kind. So thank you so much, Clara. To part 2, because we probably need like 4 hours to unpack all these subjects. So I have to do a part 2 when things are less busy. But thank you so much. And thank you, everyone. And all the links will be below, so you know where to find Clara and myself. And we look forward to carrying on in part 2 soon. Thanks, everyone.
I need to share.